Hi guys, this is the Audiofool, and for today, we're going to review the Dynaudio Special 40. I compared the Special 40s to the KEF LS50s, the Tekton Impact Monitors, and the ATC SCM11s, and what I like the most about the Special 40s is that it's a complete sound machine in a small compact package. You have very smooth extended highs, decent mids, and very powerful tight bass which can easily go down to 41 Hz. Not a lot of speakers in this price class would be able to provide that much value, so it's definitely the logical choice if you have the budget. It's also very easy to drive, 4.9 ohm minimum according to steerfile, so even some AVRs would be able to drive it to its maximum. What I don't like about the Special 40s is that it has some quirks, or rather, some subjective stuff that puts me off but may not put off others. First is the soundstage. I feel like I'm listening to a recording, like I'm a bit away from the stage, versus some other speakers which puts a little bit more depth and makes me feel like I'm listening in the recording session. So if you're looking for that intimate soundstage, you may want to consider other speakers. Another thing is that my wife found the treble to be a bit fatiguing. I didn't find it fatiguing at all, but if you're sensitive to those things, then you may want to be cautious about it. What I hate about the Special 40s is that it used to be $3,000 and now it's $3,500. It's not really a big jump, but it's a big jump in terms of competition because now it's competing against $4,000 speakers. And what do you get for it? New finishes, nothing that improves the sound. So at $4,000, you can get the Q Acoustics Concept 300, which would have arguably a more pure mid-range, but the treble wouldn't be as refined as the Special 40s. And you also have the Rebel M126BEs, which would give you better cymbals and guitar notes, but doesn't have the same low end as the Special 40s. So they're still not a complete package even at that price range, so I've been audio-fooled. Not perfect, but almost. If you want to hear more details on the comparison, please keep on watching. The Special 40 doesn't look that special. If any, it looks like the Excite 18s I reviewed a while ago, which doesn't look exciting as well. I have gray birch here and the gloss does give it a premium finish. The veneer is unique, but it still looks like your typical Dynaudio box. Special SOTAR 40 tweeters and a special 7-inch MSP woofer doesn't look fancy, but sounds quite good. Slightly trapezoidal top and all veneered inside give it some special treatment. Relatively easy 6 ohm load with 4.9 minimum according to steerfile makes it easy to drive, though sensitivity could be better at 86 dB. At the back, you have the port which has the typical girth of a Dane, then a single pair of binding posts because Dynaudio doesn't believe in bi-amping. Overall, not the most inspired work, but still feels more expensive than usual. Dynaudios have a reputation to be hard to drive. They need power, they're difficult to partner with, they need tube amps, and they have long break-in times, otherwise they won't sound good. Interestingly, those are the same things audiofools say if you don't like their speakers. Can't we all just accept that we have our own preferences? Anyway, I can't answer for all Dynaudio models, but I can answer for the Special 40s. Is the Special 40 hard to drive? It has a 4.9 minimum, according to steerfile, and that means that even some AVRs can drive them to the fullest, and any 4 ohm capable amp, which is practically almost all stereo amp, can. Does the S40 need a lot of power? These are 86 dB speakers, so depending on the size of your room, you will need more or less. But it doesn't seem to sound better if you have a more powerful amp. I actually like the sound a lot in my 20-watt AGERs, and the bass is still pretty much strong. Are they difficult to partner with? I don't think so. I've tried them with the AGER, 2 AGERs, the Sim Audio Moon 250i, P3 Audio Nova 300, and even my 7498E amp, and they were all quite pleasant to me. Obviously, Some amps will sound better than others, but the S40s will still sound similar. Do they need tubes? The Special 40s doesn't have a lot of soundstage depth, and in that sense, tubes which can extend the soundstage can help if you want more depth. That said, you shouldn't be correcting anything in your system. If you like a 3D soundstage, then go look for speakers that naturally have them. Get something like a horn speaker or the Tektons, and don't get a flat soundstage speaker like the LS50s. Finally, Dynes need 200 hours of break-in time. The manual says it may take a couple weeks to fully bloom, but no specific hours mentioned, unlike the Bauer 606, where they say they need 15 hours if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I compared these with the ATCs upon opening. After 5 hours, 15 hours, 50, 100, 150, 200, and then did the review after 250 hours. Upon opening, the speakers sound disjointed, the bass was bloated and didn't go very low, but it immediately corrected itself and was listenable in about 2 to 3 minutes. After 5 hours, you can easily tell that these are $3,500 speakers. The bass was tight and strong, but I didn't feel that it was gelling together. After 15 hours, they were more coherent than they were 10 hours ago. And at about 50, 100, 150, up to 200 hours, I couldn't really notice any difference anymore. I was playing it 12 hours every day, so it's possible that those minor differences weren't noticed while I was working or doing something. But if there were, it would be extremely minor. So about 15 hours of break-in should be enough for you to fully enjoy the Special 40s, as it won't improve too much after that. Let's start by comparing the Special 40s to the KEF LS50s using the Shit Ager and Yggdrasil. And the Special 40 immediately shows how special your sound can be just by spending lots of money, as I preferred 5 out of 5 tracks, which wasn't really unexpected. And so it goes that it should be better in all genres, with the possible exception of a podcast or acapellas with 3 or 4 voices. Bass is no contest, as the Special 40 do it loud and tight, and easily does the 3 bass notes in Trials of the Past by subtract with equal volume. How they make it that low with such a small enclosure? Easy Viking magic. Mid-range is a tiny bit thicker in the LS50s, but there's a lot more details to be heard in the Special 40s, so it goes with the 40s. Vocals are where the LS50s made its last stand, as vocals are slightly more forward and more solid compared to the Special 40s. And if I had a track that was a single voice with no instrumental, I would give that to the KEFs. I used to consider the LS50s as the king of vocals, and the S40 does almost as well, and if you don't mind losing a little bit of forwardness and becoming slightly wider, then you wouldn't be losing anything at all. Highs are much more refined and have more resolution in the S40s. I've always known Dynaudio to be really smooth, and the S40 is a prime example of that. The LS50s are a bit more bitey, but suffers for it as it doesn't have the same granularity as the S40s. And ditto for the DK, which is a bit shorter and less natural than the S40s. Soundstage is wider than the S40. The LS50 surprisingly has a slight advantage in depth, but not enough to matter, and there's easily more space between instruments in the S40s. Clarity is also better in the S40, being blacker in silent passages and less echoes coming from the port. The LS50s are clearly outmatched, and their only advantage is that they look a lot less common compared to the Special 40s, and slightly better vocals thanks to being more forward and being a little bit more focused, and that of course they're a third of the price. The Special 40s aren't 3 times better, but they are still better and a very good option if you have $3,500 budget for speakers. Next, we put up the Special 40s against the Tekton Impact Monitors using the Peachtree Audio Nova 300. For my test tracks, again the Special 40 takes the cake, 4 out of 5. Losing only in Norah Jones Don't Know Why, primarily because of the vocals, the more 3D soundstage, which I prefer, as well as more fleshed out piano notes. For specific music genres, it feels weird, but more bass-intensive tracks and orchestra belong to the teeny tiny S40s, as well as rock, as it adds a little bit more bite. And the more sensitive passages, solo piano, or vocals, to the big brawny Tektons who's probably crying right now. Bass-wise, the Special 40s produce a more squarish bass note, but the Tektons are louder and a bit more texturized in that it can distinguish whether it should be squarer or rounder. This is not a big difference, and most people would prefer the squarer, punchier tone of the S40s, but there'll be some audio nerds who like to note these differences, so I'll just put it in that high for now. Mid-range is slightly hollower in the S40s, and I find the Tektons to be slightly more agile and delicate, having a bit more overtones and smaller changes in volume are more noticeable. Again, something that people might care little for. The vocals are similarly more solid and more forward in the Tektons. Not to say that the difference is huge, but the fluidity is still noticeable. Highs again are the expertise of the Special 40s, and I always complain about how I want the Tektons to be a bit sharper, so the Special 40s provide this extra bite cheddar. It's more extended and detailed and tasty without being too overbearing and salty, at least for my taste. Soundstage is more or less the same if we're talking about width, but the Tektons have more depth in them, making things more 3D. There's some depth in the Special 40s, so the vocals aren't in line with everything else, but the Tektons have more distance. Some people might not care for holographic imaging, and if so, just consider this a tie. Finally, the Special 40 sound blacker and more silent than the Tekton Impact Monitors. The Tektons aren't the perfect speakers in terms of sound, but they are perfectly ugly. Just kidding. They are the complete package from 40Hz up, but I have to admit that I do crave for a little bit more excitement up top, and the Special 40s complete this missing puzzle. The Special 40s aren't the most beautiful speakers, but next to the Tektons, they look like the Venus de Milo. I do find the mid-range to be slightly better in the Tektons, but it's not so far away, and I can easily upgrade to the Special 40s if I had the budget. I've been spoiled by the Tektons to produce 41Hz, and if I go up to the price class of the Special 40s, you won't have a lot of options that would be as complete as the Special 40s. Finally, we put it up against my current favorites, the ATC SCM 11s, using the shit ager monoblocks. For my test tracks, it's 2 out of 5 for the Special 40s. Bass tracks are dominated by the S40 as expected, but the ATCs get back with tracks where you want to be a little bit more subtle and need a little bit more finesse. If bass is your priority, then the S40 it is, no contest, including orchestra pieces where you want the grandness to come out, pieces like the 1812 Overture. But I do still like vocals and piano notes better in the ATCs, and even some rock pieces where the vocals in the S40s tend to get lined up together with the drums and bass. The bass goes deeper and louder in the Special 40s. The ATCs do not play lower frequencies with good volume, but they do play the higher overtones well, so your brain will be fooled into thinking of the whole note, but no doubt about it, you won't be able to feel it. The subtle details in the mid-range are more easily heard in the ATCs, and in new tracks, I tend to find the newer nuances in the ATCs more than I could with the S40s. And again, with piano notes, the ATC is just glorious, and all it takes is the first note in Brick by Ben Folds 5 for me to give the star. Vocals are not only fully fleshed out and a good deal more holographic than the S40s, but they also sound clear and have a bit more air in the ATCs. The Special 40s sound flatter in comparison, but again, this isn't actually bad, it's just that the ATCs sound more vivid and alive for me. Treble is a bit smoother in the Special 40s. They're not as bitey as they are in the ATCs, but they are more consistent and more natural sounding. I like the soundstage better in the ATCs as they are incredibly deep, miles between instruments, and the sound is quite holographic. Like you are there in the recording studio versus, say, watching a concert. It has been brought to my attention that some people actually prefer this distant listening, as it feels more accurate and more neutral for them. But I personally prefer the 3D sound and being in the midst, so I rate it for the ATCs. If you prefer it the other way around, then rate it for the Special 40s. I also found the ATCs to be clear in sound, more precise in tone, and the Special 40s slightly hazier. Putting my LS50s on top slightly reduced the haziness, but who has extra LS50s to put on top? And the ATC still sounded clear anyway. You may want to experiment with coupling as it may or may not help, but currently there's no way to couple the S40 to a stand as it does not have the screw holes for this. If I have to be perfectly honest, I prefer listening to the ATCs. It's the subtle changes in the overtones and the intimate soundstage which really play to my satisfaction. But not all people will feel the same way. The Special 40s definitely have them all, bass, mids, highs, and the ATCs are a one-trick pony, just for mids. At this price level, you should really know what you're looking for and what sort of sound you like. The ATCs will not be for everyone, but the Special 40s everyone will like. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or suggestions, just write them down below. See you in the next video.